Good morning. Today is Wednesday, September 11th. This is Wake Up with KERA News. I'm Andrew Garcia. You can expect temperatures to reach the mid-80s or so today. We could see a few showers later this morning into early afternoon. Overnight, we can expect cool temperatures in the 60s. Sounds pretty nice. North Texas researchers have found an unusual use for a diabetes drug. We're going to hear more about that later, but first, let's get into today's news. Last night was the first presidential debate of the season between former President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. The candidates discussed their plans for issues including immigration, reproductive rights, and climate change. The vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz will be on October 1st. A Texas conservative group is urging the State Board of Education to approve a reading curriculum for elementary school students that includes Bible stories. Jonathan Sines is the president of Texas Values. He says people opposed to including Bible stories in the materials are trying to censor them.
That's even more reason, though, for us to make sure students are taught these things, because there's an effort to ban them and censor them from the classroom. And those people say they don't want to ban books, yet here they are wanting to ban the Bible.
Groups opposed to including Bible stories in reading materials say some of the information is inaccurate and it privileges Christianity over other religions. Metformin is used to treat type 2 diabetes, but researchers at UT Southwestern Medical Center have found the drug may also provide protection against radiation exposure. Principal investigator Dr. Jerry Shea told KERA's Sam Baker that NASA's been searching for just such a drug.
They've been seriously looking for ways to protect our astronauts that might go to the moon for a long time or go all the way to Mars and back. The amount of radiation they will receive from space will be so high that right now NASA is trying to figure out if they can even do this without some sort of protection.
Why metformin?
Part of how metformin works is what we call as an antioxidant. When you expose a person to radiation, you generate these elements called reactive oxygen species, and those can then cause damage to DNA, which could lead to an increased risk of things like cancer. And so we reasoned that if metformin acted as an antioxidant and it reduced these reactive oxygen species, it might be the perfect countermeasure that NASA had been looking for.
How did you test to find this out?
We started in vitro. We took normal human cells, exposed them to radiation with or without being treated with metformin. And this was all in a culture dish. And we found that the amount of damage was repaired much quicker in the cells that, in fact, were pre-treated with metformin. And so the really surprising finding was to pre-treat mice with metformin just for 2 or 3 days. And then we exposed mice to what is considered a lethal dose of radiation. Pre-treating with metformin, we saw a huge overall survival in mice. So it really proved beyond a shadow of doubt, at least in mice, that this could in fact protect patients or astronauts against the side effects of radiation.
Are there limits on how and when you could use metformin for this purpose?
We did experiments to test that, and we can show even within an hour of taking this that we get some protection. If we give it a day or so before, we get more protection. So this is the concept that if you know you're going to be exposed to radiation, such as a first responder to a nuclear accident or to an astronaut going into space, or even a patient who has to undergo radiation therapy for their cancer. This has the potential to be a game changer for that. So now the question becomes, should this now go into clinical development to give patients when they're getting their radiotherapy? And this is something, as a radiation oncologist, at UT Southwestern are very interested in.
But I can't help but think people listening to this might think, I've been on metformin for some time. Now, does that mean, in addition to what it's doing for my diabetes, does this mean that I've been building up protection against radiation exposure the whole time?
I think the answer to your question is yes. People who've been on metformin long-term probably have much better radiation protection just because they've been on it a long time. Now, let me just make sure that people listening to this don't think, well, gee, I've got to go get a metformin and start on this. This is a prescription medication. It's not something you get over the counter. And doctors will not prescribe it to you just so you think, I want to live longer, I want to have a lower risk of cancer and things like that. At this point, it's not approved for that. It's only approved for patients with basically late onset diabetes. So I think that while it's exciting, it's going to take time and clinical trials in order to really be sure that this is something that may be more applicable. So I think this is the number one reason why basic research like we do is so important.
That was KERA's Sam Baker speaking with Dr. Jerry Shea of UT Southwestern Medical Center. The Dallas Wings unfortunately lost last night's game against the New York Liberty. The Liberty claimed victory with a score of 105-91 after leading for most of the game. Both teams are set to face off again on Thursday. Check out the Where Art Meets Happy exhibit at the Art Center of Plano. The exhibit displays whimsical landscapes as the artist explores her own emotions. For more information on that and other things to do, visit kera.org/calendar. Thank you so much for listening to Wake Up with KERA News. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. This show was produced and edited by Shardae White and Becca Moore. For more news in your inbox, visit kera.org/wakeup, and that's where you can subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA News newsletter and get more of those good morning vibes you like from our colleague Catherine Hobbs. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads as well. We're at KERATX. We'll see you tomorrow.